In a sun-drenched valley lived a gentle donkey named Benny. His best friends were Marcus, a farmer with a heart as warm as the summer sun, and Scout, a scruffy but fiercely loyal dog. Benny's days were filled with simple joys. He'd help Marcus carry baskets of apples from the orchard, his hooves making a soft rhythm on the dusty path. In the evenings, Benny, Marcus, and Scout would sit on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Marcus would gently stroke Benny's long ears, and Scout would rest his head on Benny's flank. These were perfect, peaceful days, and Benny's heart was full. He believed this happiness would last forever. Life was good, and he was loved. One autumn, a shadow fell over their idyllic life. A harsh winter had left Marcus struggling financially. With a heavy heart, he had to make an impossible choice. He found a new owner for Benny, a man who promised a good home. The day Benny left, Marcus's eyes were filled with tears. He hugged Benny's neck, whispering, "I'm so sorry, old friend. I'll come back for you, I promise." Scout went nudging Benny's leg as if begging him not to go. As the truck pulled away, Benny watched his home, his family, disappear into the distance. A promise echoing in his ears. He didn't understand why, but a deep sadness settled in his chest. Benny's new life was a nightmare. His new owner, a man named Silas, was cruel and impatient. The gentle nudges from Marcus were replaced with sharp prods and harsh words. Benny was forced to carry heavy loads of rock and timber over treacherous terrain, far more than he had ever carried before. His body ached, his spirit waned. He was given little food and water, left to stand in a muddy, cold pen at night. He missed the warmth of his stable, the taste of sweet apples, and most of all, the gentle touch of Marcus's hand. He'd often look at the moon and bray softly, a lonely call into the night, hoping his friends could somehow hear him. He clung to the memory of Marcus's promise, a tiny spark of hope in the overwhelming darkness. Meanwhile, back at the farm, Marcus and Scout were lost without Benny. The orchard felt empty, the porch too quiet. Every day, Marcus worked tirelessly, saving every penny he could. He sold his produce at the market from dawn till dusk, his face etched with determination. Scout rarely left his side, as if he understood the mission. He would watch the road, his ears perked, waiting for a familiar figure that never appeared. Marcus would often find himself staring at Benny's empty stable, the pain of his decision a constant ache in his heart. The promise he made wasn't just words. It was a vow that fueled his every action. He had to get Benny back. After what felt like an eternity, Marcus had saved enough. He and Scout set off to find Benny. The journey was long, and their hearts were heavy with a mix of hope and fear. What if they were too late? When they arrived at Silas's property, the sight that greeted them broke Marcus's heart. Benny was thin, his coat was matted and dull, and the light in his eyes had dimmed. He stood with his head hung low, a picture of despair. Silas was shouting, trying to force Benny to pull a cart that was clearly too heavy. The donkey wouldn't budge. He was simply too weak, too broken. The spark of hope in Marcus's heart flickered, threatened by the cold reality before him. Marcus's voice, thick with emotion, cut through the air. "That's enough." Silas turned, surprised, but before he could react, something incredible happened. At the sound of Marcus's voice, Benny's head shot up. His ears twitched. It couldn't be. Was it just a memory? Then, Scout barked, a joyous, familiar sound. Benny's eyes widened. It was them. He let out a loud, hopeful bray, a sound Marcus hadn't heard in so long. Forgetting his pain and exhaustion, Benny took a step, then another, pulling away from Silas and trotting towards the sound of his family. The reunion was a flood of emotion. Marcus wrapped his arms around Benny's neck, burying his face in his mane, tears of relief streaming down his cheeks. Scout jumped up, licking Benny's nose, his tail wagging furiously. They were together again. Marcus confronted Silas, his voice firm. He paid the man far more than Benny was worth, just to get him away from that place. The ride home was quiet, but filled with an unspoken understanding. Benny rested his head on Marcus's shoulder from the back of the truck, the familiar scent of his friend calming his frayed nerves. Back at the farm, everything was as he remembered, yet it felt brand new. The stable was filled with fresh hay, and a bucket of crisp, red apples waited for him. Ayate slowly savoring every bite. That night, the three of them sat on the porch once more. The sunset was just as beautiful, the air just as sweet. Benny closed his eyes, feeling the gentle stroke of Marcus's hand and the warmth of Scout by his side. He was home. Was safe. Months passed and Benny healed. Not just his body, but his spirit too. His coat grew thick and glossy, and the light returned to his eyes, brighter than ever before. He was once again the cheerful, gentle donkey who loved his life on the farm. But the memory of his ordeal had changed him. He was now fiercely protective of Marcus. He would follow him everywhere, always keeping a watchful eye. He never wanted to be separated from his family again. The bond between the three of them had been tested by fire, and it had emerged stronger, unbreakable. They had found their way back to each other, and their little family was whole once more. One late afternoon, as a storm brewed on the horizon, Marcus went to check on a fence at the far end of the pasture. The wind howled, and the sky grew dark with alarming speed. Benny and Scout waited on the porch, growing anxious. The rain began to fall in sheets, and still, Marcus didn't return. Benny's instinct screamed that something was wrong. He paced back and forth, braying into the wind. He couldn't just wait. With a determined look at Scout, he bolted from the porch and into the storm, with the loyal dog right at his heels. They had to find Marcus. They followed Marcus's scent through the driving rain and mud. They found him near a steep, slippery ravine. A fallen tree branch had struck him, and he had slipped, his leg trapped at a painful angle. He was dazed and unable to move. Seeing Marcus in danger, a surge of adrenaline shot through Benny. He nudged Marcus gently with his nose, braying loudly to rouse him. Scout licked his face, whining with concern, but Marcus was fading. Benny knew what he had to do. Bracing his hooves in the slick mud, he positioned himself, and with a strength he didn't know he possessed, he began to push against the heavy branch. He strained, his muscles screaming in protest, but he didn't stop. He had to save his friend. With one final, heroic heave, the branch shifted just enough for Marcus to free his leg, but the effort had exhausted Benny. He stumbled, losing his footing on the muddy slope, and began to slide toward the edge of the ravine. Marcus, now conscious enough to see what was happening, cried out. Benny, just as Benny was about to go over the edge, Scout lunged forward, grabbing the lead rope attached to Benny's halter with his teeth. The little dog dug his paws into the mud, holding on with all his might. A furry anchor against the pull of gravity. It was a tug of war against nature itself. Marcus, despite his own pain, crawled forward and grabbed the rope, adding his strength to Scout's. Together, inch by agonizing inch, they pulled their hero back from the brink, soaked, muddy, and exhausted. The three of them collapsed together, safe. The journey back was slow and painful, but they did it together. Benny supported Marcus, allowing him to lean on him as they limped back to the farmhouse. The story of Benny's heroism spread through the valley. He was no longer just Marcus's donkey. He was a local legend. People would stop by to bring him carrots and apples, marveling at the small donkey with the heart of a lion. But for Benny, the only reward that mattered was having his family safe. Life on the farm returned to its peaceful rhythm, but it was a new kind of peace, one born from shared hardship and unconditional love. As they sat on the porch, watching the sunset, they knew they could face anything, as long as they had each other. Their little family, forged in kindness and tested by trial, was truly unbreakable. Thanks for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more.